Okay, welcome everyone. My name's Eloisa Ramos. Hi Sonia. Hi Teresa.
Hi.
We're here studying the Course in Miracles. We are on chapter 12 of the text, and we're in section 7, looking within. Miracles demonstrate that learning has occurred under the right guidance. For learning is invisible, and what has been learned can be recognized only by its results. Its generalization is demonstrated as you use it in more and more situations. You will recognize that you have learned there is no order of difficulty in miracles when you apply them to all situations. There is no situation in which miracles do not apply. And by applying them to all situations, you will gain the real world. For in this holy perception, you will be made whole, and the atonement will radiate from your acceptance of it for yourself to everyone the Holy Spirit sends you for your blessing. In every child of God, his blessing lies, and in your blessing of the children of God is his blessing to you. Okay, so miracles are a change in perception, okay, from wrong perception, true perception, right perception. So from fear to love. So it's a let's see. So it's basically the change in guide from the ego to the Holy Spirit. And the way that we know that that the learning has occurred, and that there's a change in perception is that the results will result in healing, or it just results in more division and more conflict and more attack. So more suffering, more fear. So it's pretty easy to see which voice we're listening to. Let's see, its generalization is demonstrated as you use it more and more with more and more situations. Yes, so the miracle is the decision to perceive with love, which is a decision to forgive. And the more that we generalize it, the more that we do it on a consistent basis, the more that we learn that there is no order of difficulty in miracles, because we are applying it to all situations. We start applying it without, what's the word? It's like remembering, whenever anything shows up that's not perfect joy, it's remembering, oh, I can just give this to the Holy Spirit, because it's a false perception that I have accepted as true, that I've given value to and believed in. And I can choose again. I don't have to give it value. I don't have to believe it. I don't have to judge it next time. So there is no situation in which miracles do not apply, because they're universal. So by practicing to the forgiveness, which is our only function, and applying them to all situations, that's how we gain the Christ vision of the real world, which is a holy perception. With their experiences of, holy instance, of course, calls them holy instance. And this is how we recognize our wholeness. And this is how we accept the atonement, which remembers that the separation never happened. And because we remember that, then what radiates is compassion and love, because we know that the situation where, maybe I'm in a disagreement with my brother, is really my coming from my perception, and that my brother is innocent. And because I can see that my brother is innocent, I can accept my own innocence. And that's being in my right mind. That's the correction. That is the Holy Spirit, which is the miracle. And of course, it's a blessing. So in every child of God, his blessing lies. And in your blessing of the children of God is his blessing to you. So we are blessed in seeing our brothers through love. And we offer a blessing in this way. And this is how God blesses us. It's it's like a circle of blessing. Okay. Any questions? No. Number 2.
Everyone in the world must play his part in its redemption, in order to recognize that the world has been redeemed. You cannot see the invisible, yet if you see its effects, you know it must be there. By perceiving what it does, you recognize its being, and by what it does, you learn what it is. You cannot see your strengths, but you gain confidence in their existence as they enable you to act, and the results of your actions you can see. So is this saying that you have to recognize that the world has been redeemed first? So you have to recognize the innocence first in order to see the effects. And once
Yes.
you see the effects, you can learn what it is. Wait.
Yes. So the reality, okay, of the miracle, okay, is that it's invisible, okay, because it's coming from out of time, but the effects show up in time as any type of healing. Um, so so to recognize that the world has been redeemed is to recognize that our mind has healed. And the part that we play in the healing of our mind, or the redemption of our mind, which is also the redemption of the world, um, is that we can see the effects, and by the effects, we know that it's in our mind. Does that make sense?
So
Because see, line 2, you cannot see the invisible. So love, the reality of what we are as the Son of God, okay, has no image that can be perceived with the body's senses. So you cannot see the invisible. However, we can learn that it's there because we see the power. So, for example, when I work with you, or when I work with your brother or with a client, okay, we start out with a problem and then we work through it, and the miracle, which comes from the Holy Spirit, by looking at it through our right mind, basically dispels everything that is stuck in that problem, the fears, the whatever, whether it's emotions or whether it's false beliefs, or whether it's obviously underneath everything is a problem of separation. There's guilt under there, there's belief that I did something wrong and that it's sinful and all of that stuff, but it's but because all of that just goes poof, it's not there anymore. We recognize, okay, there's no problem now. The mind that was perceiving a problem, that was holding on to fear, has healed. That has been corrected. The error of misperception has been corrected. So, so we recognize that there was a blessing there, that there was a miracle there, that there was a change there because of the results. So now we feel happy. Now we can experience joy, whereas before we were, feeling sad or depressed or just seeing everything negative, whatever that was. So, so that's number 3. Yet if you see its effects, it must be there. So, so once you see the healing, oh yes, okay, well that was a miracle. Okay, that was a change in perception. And that's coming from the source, which is love, which is beyond time. So it exists. It has reality now for us, because we had the experience of the effects. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And by perceiving what it does, you recognize its being. So you recognize that it's loving, because we can perceive what it does is it brings forth joy and peace and union, um, and we recognize its being as being love because of what it brings forth, and by what it does, you learn what it is. So that's how we return to knowledge of the truth of what we are and what God is, which is unconditionally loving. See, you cannot see your strengths, which is love, but you gain confidence in that existence as they enabled you to act with forgiveness, with compassion, with love. When you begin to recognize, you begin to see it, because you go through an experience and you're like, oh, well, that was really interesting. Normally in this situation, I would have been cursing and honking at the car in front of me, but I didn't do that this time. I was able to stay in a peaceful place and just be still and, just send loving thoughts. so, so you recognize that there was a miracle there because of the change that you experienced and the effects of staying in peace, in our right mind. So, yeah. And the result of your actions you can see. So, so yeah, so the result of your actions. So yeah, so I mean that shows up in our actions because those we can see, but we can see that they're coming from a place of love, rather than a place of fear or distrust or an eye for an eye or survival or competition or domination, all of that stuff. Yeah. Okay, number 3.
The Holy Spirit is invisible, but you can see the results of his presence, and through them you will learn that he is there. What he enables you to do is clearly not of this world, for miracles violate every law of reality as this world judges it. Every law of time and space, of magnitude and mass, is transcended. For what the Holy Spirit enables you to do is clearly beyond all of them. Perceiving his results, you will understand where he must be and finally know what he is. I guess it's saying that the Holy Spirit is invisible, enabling you to see clearly. And once you see the results of that, you will know that he exists.
And he exists where?
Within.
Within, which is
Part of us.
Yes, but is it in time or out of time?
In reality, out of time.
Yeah, because number 3, every law of time and space and magnitude and mass is transcended. Yeah. So it comes from beyond all of the laws of the world, because the laws of the world are basically just beliefs, collective beliefs. Anyway, so it comes from beyond the level of belief, which is the domain of the ego. And that's why it can transcend the ego thought system. Yes, so, okay. So any questions there? Okay, number 4. You cannot see the Holy Spirit, but you can see his manifestations. And unless you do, you will not realize he is there. Miracles are his witnesses and speak for his presence. What you cannot see becomes real to you only through the witnesses that speak for it. For you can be aware of what you cannot see, and it can become compellingly real to you as its presence becomes manifest through you. Do the Holy Spirit's work, for you share in his function. As your function in heaven is creation, so your function on earth is healing. God shares his function with you in heaven, and the Holy Spirit shares his with you on earth. As long as you believe you have other functions, so long will you need correction. For this belief is the destruction of peace, a goal in direct opposition to the Holy Spirit's purpose. Okay, so, the title of the book is A Course in Miracles. So Holy Spirit is teaching us that our function as a miracle worker is to bring healing to our mind and to the minds of others. So, and the manifestation of those miracles is healing. So, so miracles are his witnesses, and that's how the invisible becomes real to us, through the witnesses that speak for it. Let's see. Yes. So, so the manifested world, of course, is either a projection of our mind or it's an extension of our mind. And the extension is what brings forth the miracles, because the source of it is love, which is God, and it's beyond space and time. The projection is of the ego thought system, and it's not loving. Because it's a belief that we have separated from love. So the ego cannot manifest anything that is a miracle, because it is not coming from wholeness. It's not. It is a belief that there is another will separate from the only will that is God, which is love. Yes. So function in heaven is creation. So there's maybe it's further down the page here, but the Course says on earth we heal, and in heaven we create. It might be this line right here. So our function in on earth is to forgive, because that's what brings forth the miracle in our mind that heals the error of separation and manifests healing. And it can show up as different forms of healing, but it's always some form of healing. And God shares his function with you in heaven. So creation is really for the mind that has completely healed and is now part of knowledge. But as long as we have perception, then we rely on the Holy Spirit to help us with the function here on earth, which is the practice of forgiveness, which is the undoing of the error that is sickness, which is a loss of peace, because health is inner peace. So as long as you believe you have other functions, so long will you need correction. So our only function is healing. But as long as we think we have other functions like survival or competition or making myself the best that I can be, then we're going to need correction. We're going to need healing. For this belief is the destruction of peace. And that's basically sickness. The destruction of peace will manifest as some type of sickness, a goal in direct opposition to the Holy Spirit's purpose. Yeah. Let's see, because sickness is a denial of truth. So that's why it's in direct opposition to the Holy Spirit's purpose, which is to bring forth the truth, to help the mind recognize the truth. Okay, any questions here? Okay, all right, number 5.
You see what you expect, and you expect what you invite. Your perception is the result of your invitation, coming to you as you sent for it. Whose manifestations would you see? Of whose presence would you be convinced? For you will believe in what you manifest, and as you look out, so will you see in. 2 ways of looking at the world are in your mind, and your perception will reflect the guidance you have chosen. I think for me, it's really hard to expect, like to have the purpose first, or invite love first, and then have that be, because that's essentially what it's saying. Because in order to perceive what I perceive, it's coming from what I first believe, or what I first want to believe, or what I expect, which is what I invite.
Yes. Which goes back to valuing. What are you going to invite? Well, I'm going to invite what I value. Okay, so if I value love rather than attack, then I'm going to invite love, and I'm going to expect that. And because I value it and expect it, that's what I see. Because that perception is a result of that invitation. Because that's what we sent coming to you as you sent for it, because the world reflects back what we send to it. It's a mirror. And that's why, a lot of times people say, well, I'll believe it when I see it. And I'm like, well, fine, but you're not going to see it, until you believe it. So that's why the previous paragraphs were talking about how you can, even though you can't see, it's invisible. Love is, our reality, but that's invisible to us. We can still come to know it's there. We can trust that it's there because of the effects that we experience. So it has to be there by default, because healing shows up in our life, love shows up, miracles show up. They're normal and everyday. I mean, think about all the times that you've thought of something. Oh, wouldn't it be nice to have this? And all of a sudden, 5 minutes later, there it is. Yeah. So, so the perception is the result of your invitation coming to you as you sent it. So those are loving thoughts like, oh, wouldn't it be nice, if the wouldn't it be nice is a thought of wanting to see something that is good in the world. And it can show up in a lot of different forms. So it's it's a desire, right? It's an invitation for goodness to show up in our life, without judging myself as undeserving of it. So I completely open my mind to receiving what is good. Because what, tends to stop us from doing that is our own ideas of judging whether I'm deserving or not, or judging someone else, whether they're deserving or not. Because we tend to want to place ourselves as the judge of fairness or unfairness. So we want to judge what's out in the world, but there's no point in judging what's out in the world. It's a projection of, our thoughts, our beliefs. There's nothing there in and of itself to judge. So, so we want to start with what we expect, because what we expect, we're going to invite, and we need to do the healing work, because what we expect, we tend to draw from our past. So you say, oh, well, in this situation, this and this happened in the past, so I can just expect that. And you're saying, well, wait a minute. That was not a good thing that happened in the past. So why am I holding on to all these memories of things that are not good? I want to give all those over to the Holy Spirit. Because then my expectations are gonna come from my past experiences and saying, oh yeah, I know what happens in those situations, and it's not good. So then I'm actually expecting what is not good, and then I get what I don't want, but I really want it because that's what I invited. Do you see what I'm saying? Yeah. Let's see. Yeah. So your perception is a result of the invitation. And so the past is what we see. The first few lessons is I see only the past. So the healing is of the past. Okay. In the present moment, there's no, the mind has to be in the present moment in order to look at the error that we are holding in our mind, which is a grievance in the past. And that's what needs forgiveness and healing, because otherwise it keeps manifesting, because that's the invitation. That's what we expect. And we keep seeing the same situation play out with different people and different things because it hasn't healed. So, yeah. Okay. Number 6.
I am the manifestation of the Holy Spirit, and when you see me, it will be because you have invited him, for he will send you his witnesses if you will but look upon them. Remember always that you see what you seek, for what you seek you will find. The ego finds what it seeks, and only that. It does not find love, for that is not what it is seeking. Yet seeking and finding are the same, and if you seek for two goals, you will find them, but you will recognize neither. You will think they are the same because you want both of them. The mind always strives for integration, and if it is split and wants to keep the split, it will still believe it has one goal by making it seem to be one. I guess it's saying, you know, what you look for, you're going to find. And it's kind of hard to accept the fact that the ego is not looking for love. I mean, because in our thoughts, we think the ego is looking for love. I mean, that's how it's got us so deluded.
Yes,
and
but
then I guess I'm a little unclear about the end, where it talks about if it's split and wants to keep the split, it will still believe it has only one goal by making it seem like one.
Okay. You go back to line 6. Yet seeking
Okay.
and finding are the same. So if you seek for two goals, you will find them, but you will recognize neither. So in other words, what will show up will tell us, okay, which voice we're listening to, Holy Spirit or the ego. All right. Because one goal is love and the other goal is fear. Okay. Now, if we try to keep both of those, okay, we will recognize neither. So if we seek for two goals, if we are trying to integrate love and fear and hold on to both, they cannot be reconciled. But we think they can. So we strive to keep both of them. We strive to keep the right mind and the wrong mind. What we do is we split the mind. And we want to keep the split. Okay. It will still believe it has one goal by making it seem to be one. So what that means is that we forget how to discern between true thoughts and false thoughts, because we have worked so hard to hold on to both love and fear that now we cannot tell the difference. We think that loving thoughts are fearful. That's why we're afraid of God. And we're afraid of love, true love, okay? Or we can see, or we love what is fearful. You know, we are attracted to guilt. We're attracted to sin. We're attracted to death. So what will happen is that we recognize neither. What it means is that we will not be able to, we stay stuck. It's a way to protect the ego thought system, because the mind thinks that both the thoughts of God and the thoughts of the ego are both real. Do you see that? So it can no longer distinguish between illusion and reality. And that was one of the first things I realized when I started reading the course, was that, oh, I can't tell the difference between a thought that's of the ego and a thought of the God. So I really focused on learning and on receiving the guidance to be able to differentiate between the thoughts of the ego and the thoughts of God, because otherwise we're taking guidance without being able to even recognize that. I'm going to confuse them. I'm going to think I'm taking guidance from the Holy Spirit, but I'm really taking guidance from the ego. Do you see? You see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's no way to correct the error when my mind is that confused. I'm blocking correction. Yeah. So I have to be willing to question. I have to be willing to accept that I don't know. Okay, now I have to learn. The Holy Spirit has to teach me to discern the difference between the true thoughts and the false thoughts. Okay.
Yep.
Number 7. I said before that what you project or extend is up to you, but you must do one or the other. For that is the law of mind, and you must look in before you look out. As you look in, you choose the guide for seeing. And then you look out and behold his witnesses. This is why you find what you seek. What you want in yourself, you will make manifest. And you will accept it from the world because you put it there by wanting it. When you think you are projecting what you do not want, it is still because you do want it. This leads directly to dissociation, for it represents the acceptance of two goals, each perceived in a different place, separated from each other because you made them different. The mind then sees a divided world outside itself, but not within. This gives it an illusion of integrity and enables it to believe that it is pursuing one goal. Yet as long as you perceive the world as split, you are not healed. For to be healed is to pursue one goal, because you have accepted only one and want but one. Okay, so this is a little bit of what I was talking about before when we confuse fear with love. So a lot of times for example, I can confuse love with protection, and I can be very controlling. Okay, if I, like, say, for example, with children, so I actually think that I'm being loving, but I'm not loving. I'm being controlling and very fearful that they're going to get hurt. So in the so I can make myself believe that I'm actually doing them good when I'm not doing them good. So let's see. You know, or it can be the other way around. I mean, the ego thought system can twist everything so that it's all chaos. But this is trying to make it very clear here. Okay, you must do one or the other. We're either projecting the ego thoughts or we're extending love. So we're either projecting what we have, what is intolerable to us, we project it because we don't want to see it within us. So if we see conflict outside, okay, it's because we're projecting it outside. We don't want to see it within us. So for example, all the political conflict, okay, if we're really into that, we're really into it. That's one way of projecting it and putting it outside as if it wasn't within us and not looking at it within. Okay, so here's the law of mind. The law of mind is you must look in before you look out. So you were kind of talking about that earlier, right, Sonia? You were saying, well, I want to see what's outside and then make that the cause of what I believe or what I think. But it's not like that. We put it there because we wished to see it there, because that way we don't accept responsibility for the power of our mind projecting what's there, and then we can think that we are just victims of the world and everything that shows up in our situation. So okay, so you look within before you look out. As you look in, you choose the guide for seeing. So as we look in, we choose Holy Spirit or the ego. We choose either love or attack. And then you look out and behold its witnesses. So we're going to have experiences that are loving, or we're going to have experiences that are fearful and, of attack. This is why you find what you seek, because it's a like for like. What you want in yourself, you will make manifest. So if we give value to judgment, to attack, then that's what we're going to invite, and that's what's going to be made manifest. Because we want to hold on to those attack thoughts. You see, we want to hold on to our judgments. And you will accept it from the world because you put it there by wanting it. So then we're going to look at the world and say, see, I'm right. The world is mean and, judgmental, and, I have to be on guard, and I have to make sure that, I defend myself and all of that. So 6, when you think you're protecting what you do not want, when you think you are projecting what you do not want, it is still because you do want it. Now that's that's an idea that's really difficult to accept for a lot of people, because it says the only level, the source of everything that we see is in the mind. Okay, it's the thoughts that we hold in the mind. So even the stuff that I don't want, I'm still manifesting them. Mind you, they're unconscious thoughts, but I have hidden those. I have split the mind to hide those from myself. I split the conscious and the unconscious so that I can deny. Oh no, I don't believe that. And I'm like, well, that's your experience. You have to believe it, otherwise it could not have manifested. but the split mind gives us the what's the word? It makes us believe that we can decide, because we're afraid of punishment. We think that, that by, because when I manifest something that I don't want, okay, there's usually hurt or pain or discomfort or something, okay? And generally we want to project guilt. We want to say, oh, well, so-and-so did that to me, or, this so-and-so, something separate from us was the cause of that. We're afraid to take responsibility for the power of the mind, bringing that forth. So this leads directly to dissociation. That's why we dissociate. That's why we make the conscious and the unconscious, because dissociation is forgetting. It's like 2 rooms and I leave one room and I no longer remember that there was another room. So only what's in this room now is true for me. But the minute I step out of that room and walk into the other room, all the contents in that other room now become what is true. So I can actually hold contradictory thoughts, okay, which is what the split is, and not be aware that I'm holding contradictory thoughts because I've split them, and I'm not seeing the big picture there. So yeah, so the dissociation represents the acceptance of 2 goals, each perceived in a different place, separated from each other because you have made them different. Okay, so we have made them different. Let's see. We have made them different. This is kind of weird. We have made them different by making them the same. So in other words, when we are confused and see both reality and illusion as both equally true, we can no longer tell which one is which. We've made them, let's see, we've made a quote unquote reality where opposites exist, where good and bad exist, but they oppose each other. Okay. And, the Course talks about how there are certain ideas that have no opposite. God has no opposite. Truth has no opposite. Innocence has no opposite. But in a split mind, we make opposites of God. We make opposites of truth. We make opposites of peace. We make opposites of what God created, which is an illusion. Okay, but we make opposition real. And so we say, oh no, they're, they go hand in hand because they're opposites. Even though they're different, they're still both real. Okay, so that's not possible. Okay, God cannot make his opposite, because that would completely undo what the meaning of God is, which is wholeness. And there would have to be something separate from wholeness to be in opposition or an opposite to it. Not only that, but it cannot give what it does not have. And an opposite is something that is not in the other. Okay, so what's good is not also bad. That's why it's an opposite. So anyway, I don't know if that's more confusing, but the main problem here is that we believe in a world of opposites. We believe in a world of differences. And we think that God is part of that world. And God is not part of that world. Okay. The world of knowledge has no opposites. Only in the world of perception can we think that we can make opposites or opposition, because we believe that we did it by separating from God. So that's number 9. This gives it an illusion of integrity and enables it to believe that it is pursuing one goal. 8, the mind that sees a divided world outside itself, but not within. So we just project the division outside, so we don't see it within, and therefore it stays uncorrected. Yeah. And that's why 10 says, as long as you perceive the world as split, you are not healed. So as long as we perceive opposites, as long as we perceive differences, as long as we perceive inequality, we're perceiving separation, and the mind is not healed. For to be healed is to pursue one goal, because you have accepted only one, and one but one. That means the mind is no longer split, and it has now decided for, and is now giving value only for the Holy Spirit, for the thoughts of God. That's how it undoes the split. Okay, number 8.
Is it my turn?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When you want only love, you will see nothing else. The contradictory nature of the witnesses you perceive is merely the reflection of your conflicting invitations. You have looked upon your mind and accepted opposition there, having sought it there. But do not then believe that the witnesses for opposition are true, for they attest only to your decision about reality, returning to you the messages you gave them. Love, too, is recognized by its messengers. If you make love manifest, its messengers will come to you because you invited them.
Any questions, Sonia?
No.
No. Okay, so I mean, the first sentence there is very clear. When you want only love, you will see nothing else. Okay, so our mind is split and it's unhealed until the mind is completely healed and sees only love. Okay, and so I believe that's what the forgiven world is, because at that point we don't have to make individual decisions to forgive. The whole world just, boom, generalized, completely forgiven. Everything in the world is completely forgiven, because we only want to see love, and we recognize that all of the projections from the ego thought system are not true. None of them. So there's no point in judging. So we let go of judgment, because only reality is true. Everything else is an illusion. It's an invention. It's made up. It's imagination. So there's no reason to take it seriously at all. And it's an automatic forgiveness. Okay. But we do have to practice the day-to-day forgiveness until the mind is completely healed, because otherwise we're still holding on to the split mind. And we're still seeing some value in what the world of separation offers. And so we are still holding on to the ego thought system, even if it's just a little bit, we're still projecting. We haven't let go of projection. So the mind is not seeing only perfect innocence. It's still seeing, guilt and sin and fear. Okay, so that's the practice. The practice is, it's a daily practice to make love manifest through forgiveness, through the practice of forgiveness. The first line is when we have completely generalized that practice, and it's just automatic now. When we want only love, and that's the Christ mind. That's what the accomplishment of Jesus Christ was. Is he was not a split mind. He was a whole mind. And that's all he saw. He only saw love. Even in the extreme cruelty of the crucifixion, he still only saw love. So there was no, there was no projection, there was no like cursing the people that crucified him. None of that, all of that. It's, God forgive them, for they do not know what they do. So, okay, Sonia.
I have a question though. So, like the whole like piece of like guilt that comes in, I feel like it's easy, at least for me. I don't know if this is other people might relate. It's easier to forgive other people, but I have a really hard time forgiving myself.
Yes.
It's actually harder. It's like probably the hardest for
Okay.
me at least. So I'm just wondering how what I think, because I'm giving value to what I do or the things I'm projecting guilt and sin into what I do. So to forgive myself would be like, I don't know. I'm not making sense, but I have a
You
really
are.
difficult time.
Yeah, a lot of people have that. So you're making a difference, okay, between yourself and the other people. Okay, but you're doing it by making yourself by maybe having higher expectations for yourself that you're not willing to let go of. Right?
Okay.
So like you could say, okay, well, yeah, I forgive so-and-so for being late, but I'm not going to forgive myself for being late to work. Okay, because I should know better. So you have all these expectations, all these standards. So what it is that we make double standards for judging. We don't just use one standard. We make one standard for, my coworkers and one standard for myself. And my standard is higher than theirs because, I have a belief, maybe, I'm just guessing, I'm throwing out stuff. I believe that I am more capable than them. It would be like saying, oh, well, I have one standard for judging adults, but I have another standard for judging children. Do you see what I'm saying? So if a child, throws a terrible temper tantrum, okay, well, I can forgive the child. Okay. But when the adult does that, hey, the adult should know better. I'm not going to forgive them. Okay. So I draw the line. So you're doing that, but you're doing that with yourself and somebody else. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. So would that be like you were saying here? It's I've accepted the opposition, making myself opposite from other people. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And in order to hold on to that, you're going to have to make yourself different. Do you see that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're going to have different standards for yourself.
Okay.
Yeah. Because otherwise you're just the same. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So let's see, Teresa. Do you think that this is a good place to stop, or do you want to keep going?
I don't know what time it is.
It's 12:25.
Up to you guys. What do you want to do?
Let's see. I think it's a good idea to stop because there's another, it goes to paragraph 15 and we're only on,
Paragraph
we just
8.
finished, we just finished 8. So I think we'll split this into 2 parts.
Okay.
Is that good?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So thank you, everyone. And so next time we'll pick up from section 9, from paragraph 9.
Perfect.
All right. Till next time. Thank you.